You're listening to another episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. I'm Andrew Stillwell, and as far as the industry goes, it was, we got parks getting ready to open for the season coming up, I believe, this weekend for a lot of markets. But the biggest news this weekend is Six Flags is streamlining their park operations. They have sold 7 parks to EPR Properties. And we're going to talk about it, but we're also going to talk about kind of our wish list, our thoughts, and what we want these 7 EPR Enchanted Parks to kind of become and deal with in the future. But to do that, if you're familiar with U.S. syndicated radio, there is a radio show that is 2 guys named Chris. And this podcast, I'm actually joined by 2 guys named Erik. So first in, I'm going to introduce Erik Woolley. Previous podcast guest, co-host, however we want. He's out in California. Erik, welcome to the Coaster 101 podcast again.
Hi, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. It's your birthday.
It is.
I
assume this will come out a day or 2 later than my birthday. But
yes.
Thank you.
This will come out tomorrow. So happy belated birthday to those, if you're listening. Wish Erik a happy belated birthday. And then also joining us, another Erik, spelled a different way, E-R-I-K. He's actually Coaster 101's newest writer, Erik Casper. Damn it. Erik Caspersets up in Canada. Erik, welcome to the Coaster 101 podcast.
Thank you for having me. And have no fear, you've said it correctly.
I was going to say,
I've been pronouncing my last name for more than 20 years, but yeah.
It's just... Andrew, you need to take some German classes because it's just 2 German words there smashed together.
I took Spanish in high school and college, and
I speak Spanish. Solo un poco. I'm from the Dominican Republic, so you'd be surprised.
I love it. Well, Erik, we're glad you're joining us. Glad you've joined the Coaster 101 team in the last couple of months here. And if you're listening, make sure you head to our website, coaster101.com. Erik has written some really good articles about kind of parks down at the Dominican. He's got some speculation about parks in Brazil, Beto Carrero World.
Correct.
Pronounce that one right. Awesome. So go check those out on Coaster 101. But this week we are talking I would say much awaited, because this is one of those things that the sleuths on the internet found the Enchanted Parks trademarks weeks ago. And then we finally get the news release from Six Flags, came out this week, talking about the sale of 7 other parks, 3 legacy Six Flags parks, 3 legacy Cedar Fair parks, and then 1 water park that was legacy Cedar Fair, but Cedar Fair acquired it. Those parks, again, Worlds of Fun, Valleyfair, Michigan's Adventure, Schlitterbahn Galveston, Six Flags St. Louis, Six Flags Great Escape, and Six Flags Ronde up in Canada. So $331 million. Six Flags has sold those to EPR, and they are going to be managed by the newly organized Enchanted Parks, semi-new, I guess. They own and operate some water parks in the around the United States. But I'll bring you guys in first. Erik up north. Now, I'm going to find different ways to identify the two Eriks. Erik north of the border.
Oh, we'll understand.
When you saw this news, kind of what were your first thoughts?
I wasn't terribly surprised. We knew with this merger of these 2 very large and indebted companies that they're going to have to be shedding the fat. There's only so long you can sustain that kind of organization. And when the executives from Cedar Fair took over the company, they were very much aware of that too. We've had about close to 2 years now, which they've been able to analyze their portfolio. These executives have all gone up to the parks. They've crunched numbers. They've identified which of the legacy Six Flags park they wanted to clean up in their image, and which ones were more or less dead weight. We had the first phase of that decided with Six Flags America. There was just, unfortunately, not the value to rehabilitate that park or keep it going. And now we're seeing the second phase of that with a lot of these parks. They've shed this weight. This is probably the most drastic action we're going to see. And I don't think we're done yet. So,
okay. Erik in California, West Coast Erik. What about you? What were your first thoughts seeing this kind of pop up? I feel like there was smoke on the internet the day before, and then it just it went full send the next day. But what do you think when you saw this news?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody should be very surprised. Like Erik said, we were talking before we started recording, if you look at attendance of Six Flags parks, turns out this is basically the bottom of the new Six Flags Cedar Fair chain is what is being sold off. I think at least nice, not surprise, but maybe semi-positive surprise is that they're actually being sold to a company that runs, like you said, water parks, and a company that actually owns Six Flags Darien Lake and maybe Frontier City, something like that.
Frontier City and a couple of the water parks.
Yeah, and so Six Flags operates those, but EPR already owns theme parks. They own water parks, and they own, I think, other entertainment center kind of things. So it's not like this is presumably EPR's plan is to start investing in these and try and make money off them, which I think is the other aspect of this, of how many of these parks are sold are ones that fans have been complaining for the last, 10, 20 years that they haven't gotten exciting new rides. And Six Flags isn't going to spend money on those because the combined attendance of all of those is the same as the attendance of just Knott's Berry Farm or something like that. So you're not going to spend millions of dollars on new roller coasters at Michigan's Adventure when at best you can get 100,000 more guests. But if you spend that money at Carowinds or Canada's Wonderland, you can get hundreds of thousands more guests. So I think in that sense, hopefully a positive for these parks is okay, there's maybe somebody now who will invest in these more than Cedar Fair or Six Flags or the combined company would ever do.
Yeah. And you mentioned the attendance. Our buddy Andrew Hyde from In the Loop, he put together a real quick, what he called an emergency podcast on his lunch break. I haven't listened to it yet, but I did ask him what he was having for lunch, and he told me he answered that question. But he said, the seven parks that Six Flags sold accounted for 4.1 million in attendance. Six Flags as a whole did 47.4 million overall. So you're basically, he again ran the numbers. He's a numbers guy, giving up just under 9% of their attendance for $331 million. It's an interesting exchange there for sure. And I was talking to Hyde. I was talking to a couple other people the day before this dropped, and it was is this happening? Is this what's going on? And then obviously the news broke very early. I think it was Thursday or Friday morning, and it was just oh, well, this is the thing. And Erik said, we knew it was going to happen eventually. Six Flags America was kind of that first domino in the chain, and I don't know if you guys saw the drone footage. Somebody flew a drone over Six Flags America last week, and Ragin' Cajun is disassembled. There's a 1990s Batmobile just chilling backstage.
Those rides are getting new homes in the chain. I am familiar with brokers there, but yeah, they will stay.
All right. We will, interesting. We're going to have to talk about this later off pod. We'll figure it out.
This sale sort of makes me wonder if Six Flags had tried to sell Six Flags America, maybe also to EPR, and EPR was not interested.
Once they realized that park was just not worth it, or even investing in enough to bring it up to their standards. Closing it was the better option, and they were also arguing with the county because the county wanted to keep an amusement park, but Six Flags did not want to ditch that particular park only to create airspace for a competitor to King's Dominion and Great Adventure.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that park, the land there is also a lot more valuable for real estate. Typically, with a lot of these theme parks, you'll see it's more valuable to have a park there than just turning it into housing because that's more long-term income. But this is not the case in Washington. So
yeah. It's going to be a great Amazon distribution center one day, maybe.
I was going to say, it's Six Flags America isn't that much of an urban location. This is not California's Gray America, where there's actually it's surrounded by...
It's very, very, very popular real estate. So
yes.
In that region.
Awesome. But with the new owners, right? The CEO of Enchanted Parks is a guy named James Harhi, Harhi. I'm having really difficult issues pronouncing last names today, but he gave an interview this week to the St. Louis Post Dispatch, and he said that Six Flags St. Louis, which is going to be renamed Mid-America by Enchanted Parks, kind of a throwback to the park's original name, is going to be this crown jewel of this new chain. Which, again, if you take the parks that we've mentioned here, Michigan's Adventure, Valleyfair, Worlds of Fun, Six Flags St. Louis, Ronde, and Great Escape, it is, as Erik Stanford graduate Erik from California said, it's kind of the bottom of the Six Flags barrel right now. And, one of these parks has to be kind of this iconic new park of the entire chain. Is Mr. Harhi, the CEO, is he going to give other interviews in these markets where he's going to say, Worlds of Fun is going to be the crown jewel, or Michigan's Adventure is going to be the crown jewel? It's like the scene in The Campaign with Will Ferrell, where he's like, Filipino tilt-a-whirl operators are this nation's backbone, and schools are this nation's backbone. And it's like he gives the same speech. But, as part of this, he said he had a lot of interesting things. He was talking about working with DC and Warner Brothers to get the licensing. He's talked about wanting to put I believe, a dark ride or an updated dark ride to kind of update the Battle for Metropolis, the Justice League. So
please, Justice League at that park is absolutely suffering. It is in deplorable condition. They need to replace it.
Really? See,
yes, that one especially.
I'm wondering why, though, because I feel like a lot of those are this, kind of the same.
It's all down to the individual parks maintenance, and that particular. I'll get into more of like the management of that park over like the last 10 years or so, but that particular ride has just absolutely been left in the gutter. So
interesting. All right. Well, we need a new dark ride. We need updates. I'm hoping it's not a situation where we went from, back when Hard Rock Park became Freestyle Music Park, it went from Nights in White Satin the Trip after the Moody Blues ride to, which was incredible, the world's greatest dark ride at the time, and maybe of all time ever. I don't know, TBD. But it then became Monstars of Rock, which is quite possibly the worst ride I've ever been on. So I'm hoping we don't get that in this situation, but I also feel like the technology, and if EPR is going to throw some money behind this, Enchanted is going to throw some money behind this, Sally Dark Rides is making incredible things right now. So I'm hoping that whatever comes next is going to be better. But, this kind of conversation that the CEO had with St. Louis Today and St. Louis Post Dispatch, it kind of got me thinking. I was like, there's 7 parks out here that I would say neglect is not the right word, right? It is, they're parks, they've existed, they've been stable, they've been stable, not a lot of capital investment, but I'm wondering like, if we had a wish list for these parks, right? What is something we would do, or some things, multiple things, we're not going to go into a 5-year plan for all 7 parks because that's a long time. But, I want to think about, if we were in charge, if we were with EPR, what would we as fans want to see? What would we think would bring these more fans into the gates? And I want to start actually up at Ronde, and I'm Erik again. Erik in Canada, again, highly familiar with Ronde. Been there a couple of times. I want to start with you. You've, as someone who's been to this park, I've been to Montreal. I looked at it across the river because it's on an island there, and this was like in the dead of winter. So nothing was open. But, what is something you think that you would like to see come to Ronde? And it could be a couple of things, but what are your thoughts on what Ronde needs as part of this EPR Enchanted merger acquisition?
So this is going to be incredibly difficult, actually, because the park doesn't need a single new... It needs some cleaning up. It's gotten some money lately to clean up a couple of rides that have needed it. But most of all, they just absolutely need to overhaul their current culture, because the park, as is custom in that part of the world, is operated at such a low effort standard. You will be waiting 10 minutes in a station for a ride to dispatch because whoever's at control panel is on their personal cell phone. And I'm not saying that the staff are horrible, because everybody's very happy, everybody's very friendly. It's just this attitude across the park, whether it's at admissions or food or the rides. Everybody is good at everything except their jobs, and it's just the culture of that park. And it appeals mostly to locals. Montreal has a huge tourism base, but they just don't tap into that tourism base because it's not up to that standard. But on the other hand, one of the reasons why they're having a lot of problems right now is they don't have money, and they're not getting an influx of money because they offer very cheap season passes to the locals, and everybody buys one. So they get decent attendance, but they don't have the money to do more, and they're just operated like, dare I say, absolute slop. And I guarantee you, Cedar Fair executives, when they took over the chain, walked into this park and saw the level of where it's at right now, and were like, yeah, we can't. This is not the standards of which we should be offering our customers in our chain. Now, you could put a lot of money into completely reinventing that park, because it's a nice park, and it has a very, very rich history as Expo 67, because that's what it was built for. And you could very nicely overhaul that, but they just didn't want anything to do with it. And neither did Enchanted Parks. They all have other pet projects. And it's one thing to fix up a park, but it's another thing to completely overhaul their operations and just the culture with which that park is operated by. So,
and this is the one that's not this, because Enchanted Parks.
This one is special.
Yeah, this one's taken over. Like the U.S. parks, Enchanted Parks is taking over, right? This one is going to be managed, I think, by a guy who used to own it. Is that correct?
No. Okay. It is being managed by a new independent company operated by Kieran Burke of Premier Parks. In 2022, he also took over, or he set up companies to operate Calypso Water Park a couple hours away, and then the other direction, Valcartier in Quebec City, which is a huge operation. They have a resort. During the summer, they have a very large water park. Year-round, they have an indoor water park, and during the winter, they have a massive tubing complex and just winter park. So the city has not liked the Six Flags operation La Ronde for a bit, because they've been underinvesting. They've been removing historical landmarks without communication to the city, like the monorail. The city's not been happy with them. So they were more appealed by just Premier Parks taking over, more likely. So that's why that park is gone.
Got it. And I'm looking at RCDB here, and they've got 8 operating roller coasters. The most recent one that was not a quote hand me down from another park, which was their Ednor. All right, Erik, help me here. Help me with the French.
Yes.
I can't.
Ednor L'Attaque.
Ednor L'Attaque.
It's a shame, because this park's ride collection is quite good, and the worst of the coasters is like average at worst, and the best of the coasters are really good. They do not have a bad ride there. They're better rides when they have money to put into infrastructure, because you can tell, like, just the area around Goliath, their B&M miniature hyper coaster, and Vampire, everything's really, really well done and put together, and it just hasn't seen that money since. So yeah.
Wow. And I know, it feels like with it being on an island in the middle of the St. Lawrence River, the park might be a little landlocked. I want to ask you, though, as someone who is familiar with roller coasters, familiar with the park, if there is a coaster model out there that you think would really succeed at La Ronde, what do you think they should add?
Premier Ride Sky Rocket 2 with a dual sliding station, and put it where they have this massive lot at the south of the park where their Cobra Intamin stand-up coaster was. That's not there anymore. They haven't filled it since. They had another site where they had another coaster that they almost replaced with Green Lantern from Six Flags Magic Mountain, but that's since been turned into a much-needed employee parking lot. This Sky Loop will look good on the river, and the park needs a launch coaster, and it will fit perfectly into their lineup. And it will cater very well to the guests. It's just a matter of... I don't know if or when they will ever get another coaster, but
hey, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just listen.
Yeah.
the name of our podcast is the Coaster 101 podcast. We got a hypothetical. Yeah, we gotta speculate on coasters. Yeah. We gotta, if we could bring things
blue sky season, and
again, my my primary wish for that park is to just completely change its operations. I've had 2 visits there. One of them was absolutely horrific, and the other I rope dropped, went in for 75 minutes to do what I wanted to do, and then the moment things started looking like, the moment stuff got inconvenient, I just immediately left and drove the 8 hours home.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
8 hours. You were there 75 minutes for 8 hours of driving home.
I was in the region last year to do a bunch of different water parks, so there was a right. I wasn't even going to go back to the park because I was so frustrated from the last visit. But I was like, you know what? I might as well. I have this pass that gets me in for free now with the all park passport, and I still needed to ride the kids coaster, and
of course. Listen. I love it. Erik in California, he can't stand when I go to a park and ride a kid's coaster.
No, what I can't stand is when you'll do things like go 4 hours out of your way to ride a kid's coaster, which is what it sounds like Erik just did. I will, as somebody who's been to Montreal once and enjoyed the beautiful city of Montreal, and at no point considered going to Ronde, because I think that would be very far down the list, even for a roller coaster fan, of things to do if you're visiting Montreal as a tourist.
And again, Montreal it's such a huge industry for tourism. So why does the park have absolutely zero connection to this established base? Because it is run at such a poor level, and it is intended for the locals only, because the locals don't expect anything better, and to them it's completely normal for just the absolute state of things at this park. So now Premier Parks is probably going to run this on autopilot. I don't expect any change, unfortunately. But
hey, that's all good. Yeah. I feel like we've talked more about La Ronde in the past 10 minutes than most coaster podcasts have talked about La Ronde ever. So I think we're making a step in the right direction.
It's probably for very good reason, but I've said my part on that.
All good. All right, let's move to let's go switch gears a little bit. Let's go to a legacy Six Flags, or a legacy Cedar Fair park, rather. I want to talk Michigan's Adventure, because this is another park that I feel like is much maligned in the enthusiast space. We love to, I don't say we, I say enthusiasts love to hate on this coaster, or hate on this park rather. It's been around. This will be its 70th year of operating since 1956. But it's a smaller park, right? It's got 7 roller coasters. It's got, Shivering Timbers, by all accounts. I've not been there. It's a top tier wooden coaster. But I can't, Erik out in California, do you have any thoughts on something that Michigan's Adventure could add to, what's on your Enchanted EPR wish list for Michigan's Adventure?
I mean, I feel like you said, that is sort of was the forgotten park even of the Cedar Fair chain. I think what the last new coaster that showed up there, I guess they got a Woodstock Express sometime recently-ish, but before that was an SLC in 2008.
That family coaster was in the park already. Like, that doesn't even count. They took it away, had it in storage, or moved it. Like, that doesn't count.
Brought it back out.
And then Thunderhawk came from Geauga Lake.
Yeah.
So that was 2008. Their Mad Mouse was the last coaster that didn't operate elsewhere, be it in the park or outside the park, and that was 1999.
And Shivering Timbers was the year before that, when I guess somebody decided that park needed roller coasters.
This millennium, that park has not added a new coaster.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that, because I have not been there, but like you, everyone I know who's been has said it's worth going basically for Shivering Timbers. I mean, it's sort of, what that says to me is the park needs any custom roller coaster layout that makes it something that's more appealing for somebody to come visit. That's assuming that that's actually what they're going for. Is this the smallest? It has had the lowest attendance maybe of all of them, or was very close to it, and is also, it's near Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's not like it's not a big metro area that lots of people are going to. So then it's like, okay, well, what what could help them like extend their operating season or let locals come more often and spend a little bit more money. And so maybe that's similar to what Erik was saying about Ronde. Well, like, okay, make it a little bit nicer, make the operation spend a little more on operations or food or whatever, and just make it something that is more appealing to locals in the way that, like, you know, small seaside parks that only have a couple roller coasters still have lots of beloved fan kind of thing.
In the last couple of years, Michigan's Adventure had, I don't know if it's, they had a fall event that they were extending into the fall season for the first time, and then I think last year or the other year they stopped doing it, and then said they're going to bring that back this year. So that was definitely one way. And an idea I had for new rides was with the Six Flags America sale, they have a very large teenage and adult audience that is still going to that park just as locals. It would have been really great if you brought in the Harley Quinn Spinsanity Giant Frisbee or the Star Flyer from Six Flags America and put it where the Sky Coaster at Michigan's Adventure is, because it's going to be more difficult now that that's being sold to EPR, because if they want those rides, Six Flags isn't going to put them there in the house. They'll have to negotiate with EPR to buy them. But they would have been excellent additions for Michigan's Adventure. So,
yeah, those big, tall, modern flat rides. I think something like that. You know, looking at Michigan's Adventures map, I think they would crush it there. I think every park on this list, I'm going to say I want a dark ride, but that's just because I love dark rides. So, and I don't know kind of where they are landlocked wise. I know they've got the whole park that's around that central lake. I think, you know, another kind of coaster model that it's kind of front of memory right now is because Family Kingdom and Myrtle Beach is building one. An RMC Raptor, if Family Kingdom and Myrtle Beach can build an RMC Raptor, any of these parks that feature an injection of cash from a new owner feels like that's a home run. It doesn't have to be the Jersey Devil model. It can be a Fire Runner, or it can be a to be named Family Kingdom model, or the Railblazer model. All these different, I think that I think could drive attendance there.
And the whole point of those is that they are cheap. Certainly relatively, right? I forget what it was when Railblazer opened, but a couple million or something.
Yeah. And it's in a compact footprint. Like the one at Family Kingdom is where the go-karts used to be.
Yeah.
They weren't cheap enough for the really, 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 really small parks, because I know one that looked into it and RMC gave them a figure higher than they were advertising and they backed out. But EPR could definitely afford it.
Yeah, I think so. And again, if it's
going to Myrtle Beach, you can, or
that's listen. I'm excited for this coaster coming to Myrtle, but I think again, if you throw kind of a high intensity coaster at a park like Michigan's Adventure, which again, as we discussed, has not opened a new to them, like new ground up roller coaster in over 25 years. 26 years, whatever.
Since which I realized Cedar Fair didn't buy them until after 2000. So Cedar Fair never invested in a new roller coaster.
Nope. So anyway, Michigan's Adventure, we love it. I know Larry on our team, he has worked there a number of years. He's super passionate about the park. He might have something completely different that he's he's dealing with, or he has, not that he's dealing with. He might have something completely different that he has in mind for this park. So we'll talk to Larry, see if he's got any ideas too.
It's staying open, which should be good news for Michigan's Adventure fans.
Right.
I mean, unless EPR closes it, but that'd be weird.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
No. The EPR is not going to buy these parks to close them, because that's...
And every single park on this list is much more valuable operational than not.
100%.
Yeah.
So, kind of keeping with the Cedar Fair, Legacy Cedar Fair, now Six Flags, but former Cedar Fair Park theme, I want to go down to EPR's headquarters in Kansas City, Missouri, and talk Worlds of Fun, Oceans of Fun. I have been to this park. It's the only one of the 7 I've been to, so I've got a little bit of knowledge of what I think this park could use. But the things that Worlds of Fun has going for it, Prowler is an elite wooden roller coaster. It's like Mystic Timbers light. It is so fun. I love it. Timberwolf is also a really good wooden roller coaster. It barely operated last year, but I think, there's always the ever-present rumor of RMC Timberwolf, and that's, that could be something.
The lift hill failed inspection at the beginning of the season last year. They had to spend a summer repairing it.
Got it. Man, Erik, I like having you on the podcast. You've got like all the background, all the tea. I'm here for it. Another thing that Worlds of Fun does really well is their Halloween haunt. So I'm hoping, of the Legacy Cedar Fair Parks haunts that I've been to, Worlds of Fun was amazing. And, they put a lot of time and effort into their haunt. So I'm hoping that will continue. Obviously, probably won't be called Halloween Haunt anymore, but maybe some other generic Halloween name is an option. And I think this park could really benefit would be a modern, family coaster. I've talked to people at the park who have worked there, and that's something that the kind of park lacks a little bit. I feel like, they've got spinning dragons, they've got Cosmic Coaster, which is not really it's a kiddie coaster at its core. And they've got, Zambezi Zinger, which could kind of appeal to families. It's not super long, not super tall. But I feel like something like a Big Bear Mountain, right? Or one of these family thrill launch coasters from Zamperla. I think it could, breathe a little bit of new life into that park. Again, dark ride, because every park except for Galveston Schlitterbahn needs a dark ride. And even then, they need a dark water slide. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I think, a family-friendly roller coaster, like not to the scale of like a Prowler or Patriot or Timberwolf or anything like that, but something like a Big Bear Mountain, something in between like Snoopy's Racing Railway at Carowinds and Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood. There's got to be a middle ground there, and I think that would be a home run for Worlds of Fun.
Hey, to have the perfect site open for it.
It's true. Which site are we talking about?
Orient Express.
Yay!
Close to the Patriot in front of the park. That is still sitting open. It is not that far from the kids area. You can put something very decent there.
Listen, Erik's got man. Other Erik, you're fired. I'm just gonna. If I want Erik on the podcast, I'm bringing Erik Casper sets on the podcast. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, I warned you that I didn't know much about most of these parks that got sold. Turns out I'm one of the people who didn't attend them.
It's all good. All good. Let's jump back over to the Six Flags side of things and Six Flags Great Escape, which Erik Casper sets you've been to. Like you're familiar. This is kind of your neck of the woods, not quite, but closer than me, than Erik for sure.
I went in 24 right after Bobcat opened. I was introduced to the park president. I had a slight tour. Nothing too much. My awareness of the park is that before they were sold to Cedar Fair, like the sale is somewhat surprising because they were one of the most profitable legacy Six Flags parks. Their operating costs were very low because they didn't have these huge rides. They're located in a tourist area like Lake George, so they were always getting like very consistent attendance. And to have that resort and indoor water park, which is year round, and just it's a cash cow. So I was surprised that they were like very willing to give up that park, like even with its attendance, like it was just still absolutely generating money. But on the other hand, when Enchanted Parks, their like highlight destination up until the acquisition of these parks was in Utica with that water park, Water Safari, which by the way is getting a new SBF spinning coaster this year. It was at IAPA in the fall, and that's apparently a pretty nice place if like very off route. But it's going to be very easy to advertise between them and Great Escape as this one destination. So that's why I suspect it was included in the sale. For what Great Escape should get, Steam and Demon and Canyon Blaster are problems, and they need to go. They need to get better rides in those locations. They need to get a better thrill coaster where Steam and Demon is. Like get something from Gerstlayer, like that'd be really nice. And Canyon Blaster, like just any family coaster. So put something there that is not a complete waste of space. As
Yeah.
both those rides are awful and they don't do anything for the park, and Canyon Blast has been having a lot of issues. For some reason, they've sunk their claws into that ride this past year to fix it up a lot, that they should have just torn it out.
And these
If they
are
had
both.
if they had the funding, they would have. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe now they do. And, these are two classic Aero coasters. You never want to see an old Aero close, but if they're as problematic as you think they are, I think the addition of a Gerstlauer, something like a Defiance at Glenwood Caverns, right? Like
yes,
a custom Eurofighter that, has a mountain view, because I think, the scenic location of Lake George is, it's definitely somewhere you can kind of play with the terrain a little bit.
yeah.
This is a park that has a new coaster, which is the newest, I believe, of any of these parks. Bobcat, which you mentioned.
They really, really needed to get that too. So they've been trying to get anything to the process to replace Alpine bobsleds was long, because they went through the 2010s. They kept on trying to get. They were drafting up ideas here, there, and everywhere, and those just weren't being met. So they weren't going to get that level of funding from corporate. Salim Basul got embarrassed on an earnings call in 2022 and started immediately just approving these giant budgets, just approving any attractions for these parks. And that's when the management saw the opportunity to ask them for funding for a new coaster. They got it, and they absolutely ran with it. And That's how Bobcat happened. And it'd be really, really nice if that happened again, because I'm asking not for one coaster but two. So
yeah, and they've got at least one really unique flat ride that I remember writing about when it was announced. I think it's called like Adirondack. What is it? Adirondack Outlaw.
Oh, it's really good. It's fantastic. It doesn't belong at that park because it has terrible capacity, but you get a really long cycle on it. And when you're sitting up there at the top while they're loading the car below you for a hot minute or two, you just get this amazing look at your surroundings, the Adirondacks, like you were saying. It's phenomenal. So
cool. Hey, I love these kind of quirky flats. I know Canada's Wonderland, I feel like, has the market cornered on kind of the quirky flats. But this is a
here at Wonderland we have unique flats, not amazing flats, but
they're unique though. And if we could get more kind of unique, again, another unique flat ride to Great Escape, I think would be a great home run for them.
They have 3 spots open right now that had flat rides that don't have flat rides currently. You can very much do something. So lots of opportunity.
EPR, if you're listening, Erik wants 2 coasters, 3 flat rides.
Andrew, you're being very realistic in your wishes. Wishing for flat rides seems much more likely to happen than anything else.
Like flat rides that they provide, I don't know if they provide like a sexy marketing campaign like a new coaster would, but they're still new and exciting experiences that the people of Lake George would love.
Supporting lineup is very important
for small parks or like talking about Michigan's Adventure, like parks that have largely a local fan base. Yeah, I think a good flat ride absolutely can be used also as marketing, like get people in. And these days for some of these parks, just seeing any kind of new attraction at them for some of these is a nice change.
Yeah.
Hey, right now they're currently missing a swing ride, a Ferris wheel, and a pirate ship. And they had all those rides, but they don't anymore, and those spots are still open. You can just perfectly place these classic attractions there. So,
boom.
Yeah.
We need one of those, the interactive Zamperla ones that, like, I think you have to yell on one side or something like that. I remember reading about that or hearing about it at some point. I don't know. I think I might have made that up. There was that might be something the park just wants you to do. Like you're supposed to yell louder than the other side, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway,
my memory is blank.
It's all good. Last park on this list, last dry park that we haven't talked about is Valleyfair, which was the original. Cedar Point bought this park, which is what kind of was the the process of beginning the whole Cedar Fair chain. So it is a longtime Cedar Fair park celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, 1976. Yep, that's how the math works. And they've got 8 coasters. They've got a good, some interesting flat rides. I think they've got the only Star Flyer on the Cedar Fair side of the Six Flags chain. But what do you guys think about Valleyfair? What could we add here?
You want to start at Northern Erik?
I'll tell you what hasn't been announced yet, so that they are getting that full rebuild of about half of the water park. And it's very, very weird that hasn't been announced yet, because it's done. They've almost finished construction on it. They have a ways to go on that, but and a full rebrand of the water park. And for some reason, they haven't announced that yet. And I've been made aware that the park at the park level, the marketing team is very unhappy that they don't get to talk about the new project. But we're in March. They need to be opening in a couple of months, and there's just been no announcement. And now that the sale has been announced, you've almost got to wonder if corporate was not letting them say something because they're before the sale happened or whatever. So it's weird.
Yeah. Were they teasing that on social media? I think I remember seeing
it. They have been.
Okay, so they've been teasing it, but no official announcement.
This is something that's been in the works for a while. They tried to make it happen last year, but got pushed back because of budget. Now that it is happening, suddenly that park is being sold off.
Are they doing any special 50th anniversary things, or is that also being ignored since the sale was in the works?
They have a 50th anniversary logo.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see.
So it's being acknowledged at least.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got a 50th anniversary logo. If it's anything like the rest of these parks, there might be a summertime show or something like that. But again, with new ownership, who knows? I would like to think that EPR and Enchanted Parks would kind of pay homage to the 50th anniversary. I think that would be an easy win for them, especially in that local kind of Minneapolis area. Yeah. I think, it would be good. And like I said, they haven't had a new coaster at all in 15 years. The last one was Cosmic Coaster, which is a powered kiddie coaster that came over from Dorney Park. Before that was Renegade, so custom GCI in 2007. So coming up on 20 years without a new coaster, especially a thrilling coaster. Another park I think that could benefit from an RMC single rail. The opportunity is there for, here's a thought, let's take the high roller, right? Let's get rid of the high roller. And it's an old Opus Group, International Amusement Devices. These are companies that are just they're not around anymore. And let's get a new roller coaster. Let's bring in a RMC Wild Moose. Because somebody still needs to build one of those.
Somebody does still need to build one of those.
Let's bring that in and call it High Roller and pay homage to the original park attraction.
This is an interesting. I feel like this is a park that should have lots of potential. That is a park that is actually in a huge metro area. That obviously Minnesota doesn't have the longest running season. You probably can't do any Christmas events there easily, but there's a lot of people there. It's a big airport hub. Lots of people travel to Minneapolis. And if you invest in this, you could actually make this a pretty popular tourist destination park.
Valleyfair had one of their highest attendance years ever on record when they built the Superloop Delirious. That's all you need to know about. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It is also the highest, I think, of all of these, except maybe Worlds of Fun, the highest attendance of these parks that got sold off.
Delirious was built in 2018, and it did more for that park's attendance than Steel Vengeance did for Cedar Point that year.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
The
crazy thing to me is their only park competition in their immediate area is the Nickelodeon Universe at Mall of America, which is obviously indoors, has the benefit of being climate controlled 365 days a year, however often it's open. But that's your primary competition in your area. Like you said, Eric, this is Valleyfair as a park has a ton of potential.
Now, the part of I disagree about the RMC part. I don't think RMC should ever be working at that park, like, ever.
Okay.
But like, Keep High Roller, they have the Dinosaurs Alive site, and it is very large, and it is also right by the front gate, and you can do a lot with that.
Bring back Dinosaurs Alive. The obvious answer there.
I mean, yeah, you could. But what's this talk about a large roller coaster?
Cedar Fair's out. You can bring back Dinosaurs Alive.
It's really funny because, like, Valleyfair's management have said for a few years, yeah, we could get a new coaster, but we need to improve the infrastructure around us. And then they famously just never do because they never allocate the funding. So, yeah. So they've been stalling. And it's even funnier because they've had 2 coaster projects in the last couple of years that allegedly started there before both being drafted over to King's Dominion. And you could probably guess what those were. So
interesting.
So they've been considering it, but they just haven't made a move. And they probably looked at so many different ideas, and they're just not. So
yeah. Here's a thought, because I'm thinking now a big plot of land right by the park main entrance. Vekoma Super Boomerang. Like Flash at Great Adventure. That ride is so underrated. It is so fun. The airtime, the stall, the hang time, like, build those everywhere. Like, and they are, again, it's a tight footprint, but I would love that. That would be fantastic. And I think that's, again, what this park needs is a new coaster for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of land to. They're not constrained by a tight footprint on that. They could build what they wanted. So
yeah, and I think, I mean, to your point about the Super Loop, Eric, it's like, this will see return if they actually have money to spend on a big coaster, which, like, some of these smaller parks, it might not be worth it to spend millions of dollars, but you could. I mean, many years ago, Cedar Fair did, right? When their Morgan Hypercoaster was built, that cost $10 million in whatever 30 years ago money. Like,
yeah.
At one point, somebody invested money in this park.
Yeah,
it's true.
And you could say the same. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
You could say the same thing for Ronde. You could say the same thing for St. Louis and Worlds of Fun and so many others. At one point, somebody was putting this money in, and why not now?
Exactly.
So now the question will be: does EPR can they get enough big enough loans or funding credit to invest in some of these, or what will be their roadmap for over the next 5-10 years?
It's funny because, like, I don't know how deep we got into St. Louis or if we were going back to that, but I mentioned that they've had a weird streak of management the last 10 years or so, or 15. I don't know if you'd like to hear somewhat about that, or just
for sure.
Hopefully how that can translate over.
Yeah, go for it.
During the 2010s, when we had the Jim Reid Anderson strategy of he wasn't thinking about quality additions, but rather stuff rides that can be bought. Put a new ride into a park every year, but not necessarily an improvement, and just mass buy these rides and move them over. And St. Louis at the time had a park president that was trying to stay under budget consistently so that he and his execs could get a bonus, regardless of whether it was capital investments. At one point, they were offered a free spin, and they said no because they didn't want to go over park budget. And we almost had an RMC of the boss happen, except with the budget cuts, it would have been absolutely disastrous. And when the pandemic happened, new management took over, and they wisely stepped away from that. And they've had a couple of recent years where they were being managed by the same person who's also running Great America, which was going, like, they put some more effort to boost up that park. So that's why you've seen a couple of these new rides that are just put in, like Rookie Racer and the Joker, that have been very, very effective at that park. They've just finished repairing their carousel after, like, a multi-year restoration too. But right now they're in a weird spot where so much of the park still needs cleanup. Justice League needs to be, like, outright replaced, and the rides that they currently have are costly to maintain. You're taking care of 3 wooden coasters, one of which is the Boss, which has been getting a lot of Titan track, by the way. That's never getting RMC'd. You have Ninja, which is a very, very rapidly aging, and you have Mr. Freeze, which is a very, very expensive to operate LIM launch. So Enchanted Parks' job is going to have to come and look at these operating costs and see, is there some, like, do we need all of this lineup? Is there something here that we could take out and put something more cost effective in? Is it going to be worth the investment? And if they're building this as their new anchor park, their highlight location, and something's going to have to give. So these will be tough calls for them to make.
Hey, they see. I mean, they're saying the right things, and I mean, I'll be perfectly honest and transparent here. They gave an interview to St. Louis Post-Dispatch, St. Louis Today. I sent an email to Enchanted Parks. I would love for them to come on and tell us everything they want to talk about. You know, we're open to it. You know, they've got 7 new parks. Let's integrate into the coaster community with some news and some things. Let's help them get the word out. I'm here for it. So, Erik in Canada, I know real quick before we wrap this up, I know you're a water park junkie, you're water slide guy. Your Twitter account is K Slide Studios. So, you know, we got to talk a little bit about the water park acquisition here, which is Schlitterbahn and Galveston. Obviously, it's not the Schlitterbahn in New Braunfels that's like the staple of every Travel Channel documentary from like 2002 to 2007. That's how I learned about what Schlitterbahn was the Travel Channel. Is there anything in the water park space that you think EPR should add to Schlitterbahn Galveston?
Were you not just asking for a dark water slide?
I mean, I am.
That would be great. Dark Lazy River?
Hey, to have an opportunity to do that now that you mention it. Now, this park is in a weird state because, like, the original family that was running Schlitterbahn, they made a bunch of offshoot locations, like Kansas City, and this was the only one that really morphed into its own self-sustainable, very business. The others have either been like sold off or demolished, or just were like absolute monstrosities, like Corpus Christi and Kansas City. But when Cedar Fair took over the water park, they started homogenizing a lot of it. Like, it doesn't bear that much in line with the new Braunfels Schlitterbahn anymore. Part of their indoor water park section, they removed that part of it and just made it fully outdoors. They had a spiral staircase that was really cool and one slide tower that they demolished and just built a structure for a regular rectangular staircase. They repainted a lot of stuff. They just cleaned up that park in their image, so it doesn't bear much in line with the Schlitterbahn brand anymore. So at that point, you can just call it Enchanted Parks, and the water park Schlitterbahn identity is pretty much almost gone at this point. Now, if you want a dark, you ask for a dark lazy river, and while there are ways for them to cram in another slide tower there somewhere, because it's fairly landlocked, but there are ways to do that. They have 3 separate sections of rivers, and you could always do what one of the water parks I visited in Quebec last year, Super Aqua Club in Montreal, did with part of their lazy river, is they enclosed part of it and put a light show in there and started theming it. And going through a lazy river with strobe lights going around you and mist, and like a light show inside and just heavy theming outside is really, really cool. And even if they can't do an entire lazy river, like just enclosing part of it on like one side of the perimeter of the park would be amazing. So that's a very, very effective investment.
Dark rides. We're here for it.
Dark rides.
There you go.
Maybe not always the best investment at parks that have limited capital available to them.
I mean,
enclosing a lazy river with a light show, easy.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even need animatronics, but
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Although, if you put one robot in it, it's probably that's worth it.
It's true. I saw one. This is not feasible for a water park at all, but I have to talk about it because I just saw it on social media like yesterday. There's a place in Atlanta where they put out like an eye mask over you. They float you on a lazy river on an air mattress, and they call it like sound therapy. It's
nice. It's like a sensory deprivation kind of thing.
Sensory
That's
deprivation.
unusual.
It is very, but we do what we got to do sometimes. But I think we've wrapped this up. This is our wish list for EPR. So EPR, if you happen to be listening and want to hire us as consultants for these projects, let us know. at the very least, if you want to come on our show and tell us what you're actually planning, we'd love that too. But Erik, other Erik, I don't know which one is other Erik. I'm just pointing at this point. You guys don't know who I'm talking about. Two guys named Erik. Thank you both for joining me on the Coaster 101 podcast today. This has been a blast.
Yeah, of course, Andrew. Always happy to
It's been a pleasure.
You guys you're welcome anytime, and maybe I can get you guys separate so I don't have to like keep identifying the Eriks. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. We have a great website, coaster101.com, with the latest news, reviews, interviews, and other words that end in EWS about the roller coasters and theme park industry. Also on social media, everywhere you look, at Coaster 101. Our merch, coaster101.com/merch for the latest and greatest Coaster 101 merchandise that is inspired by your favorite theme parks and attractions. And last but not least, if you're liking or if you're listening to the show, make sure you're liking, rating, subscribing, giving us 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because we like to read those, and we're kind of narcissistic in that regard. But thanks, as always, to Justin Mabry and JM Entertainment for our theme music, and we will talk to y'all again soon.
Bye.
Bye.